When we think about how wars are won, our minds usually jump to brilliant generals or maybe some game changing new weapon. But so often throughout history, the real decider, the thing that wins or loses a war, is something way more basic: food. And believe me, when that supply line goes bad, things get ugly fast.
Okay, so I want you to imagine this scene. It's not ancient history, this is recent. There is a Russian soldier out in the field. He's exhausted, freezing, and starving. He finally gets his ration for the day, and when he opens the can, the label sounds pretty good. It promises premium quality beef.
But what's inside? It's not beef. Not even close. It's expired dog food. And this wasn't some one-off mistake. He and his entire unit were being deliberately fed this garbage by their own corrupt commanders.
I mean, how does a system that's supposed to fuel soldiers for combat end up literally feeding them cheap, expired pet food? It's a shocking question, and it's exactly what we're going to get into in this explainer. Because that story, as unbelievable as it sounds, is not some weird exception. It's just a modern-day chapter in a long, miserable history of terrible military food. It's like a secret war that's been fought inside the stomachs of soldiers forever.
And it all comes down to this massive gap, right? On one hand, you have the mission: give your soldiers everything they need to be at their absolute peak. But on the other hand, you have the gritty reality, which is often just a mad scramble to find the cheapest, most indestructible, easy-to-ship food you can possibly get your hands on.
And that scramble creates what I like to call the four horsemen of the military mess hall. First, the food has to be preserved to survive insane conditions. Then there's the constant pressure to cut costs. And getting that food to the front lines, that's a logistical nightmare. And of course, wherever you have that much money and desperation, you're going to find corruption. All this stuff comes together to create a battlefield in your gut long before you ever see the enemy.
And let me tell you, this is not a new problem. To really get a sense of how bad it can be, we need to take a little trip back in time and look at some of the most infamous examples ever. Welcome to the Culinary Hall of Shame.
We're going to hit 3 of the absolute lowest points in military dining history. We'll start with the embalmed beef scandal from the Spanish-American War, then move to the trenches of World War I for the Mackinac stew, and finally, we'll look at a much more recent disaster, the vomit omelet.
Okay, let's kick things off in 1898. American soldiers fighting the Spanish-American War were given this canned beef that was so badly preserved, rumor was it was packed with chemicals like formaldehyde, that they gave it a nickname. They called it embalmed beef. The soldiers swore it tasted like a dead body. And honestly, it probably made more of them sick than the Spanish bullets did. All right, let's jump forward a few decades, right into the mud and the misery of World War I for our next culinary catastrophe. Say hello to the Mackinac stew. Just try to picture a thin, greasy, watery stew, mostly made of turnips and carrots, with maybe a little bit of mystery meat floating around. Now imagine you have to eat that cold, day after day while sitting in a flooded trench. The soldiers absolutely hated it, and it got famous for one particularly nasty side effect, what the troops bluntly called weapon-grade flatulence. So you might be sitting there thinking, okay, sure, that's all old-timey stuff. With modern food science and MREs, we've got to have this figured out by now, right? Well, not so fast. Let's talk about the vomit omelet. Now, its official name was the omelet with vegetables, but nobody called it that. This U.S. Army MRE from the mid-2000s was so legendarily disgusting, so gelatinous and just plain foul that it became the stuff of legend. It was so bad that not even dousing it in the little bottle of Tabasco sauce or chasing it with the included Skittles could save it. A total and complete failure of food science. So when you put all these stories together, from rotten beef and watery stew to expired dog food, what's the real takeaway here? Well, it tells you about a hidden cost of war, one that you're never going to see etched onto a monument. And this really gets to the core of it. We, as civilians, tend to romanticize the idea of combat, but the quiet truth for so many soldiers is that the daily misery doesn't always come from the enemy. A lot of the time, it comes from the sickening, incompetent, cost-cutting measures of their own supply chains. It's a battle fought against broken logistics, against penny-pinching accountants, and against the simple, dehumanizing fact that when you're just a number on a spreadsheet, your personal well-being can start to look like an acceptable loss. It's a fight against an enemy from within. And that really leaves you with a final question to think about. When we consider what soldiers have to endure, maybe we should look beyond just the battlefield. What are the other hidden wars they're forced to fight every single day? Wars against bureaucracy, neglect, and just plain indifference.